Thank you, Mr. Chairman. TransCanada first submitted its application to build the Keystone XL pipeline to the United States, the State Department, exactly 5 years ago today. And in the fall of 2010, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stated that the department was inclined to approve the project. In 2011, in opposing our initial Keystone bill, the White House issued a statement of administration policy stating that the bill expediting the pipeline was unnecessary because the State Department was committed to reaching a decision before the end of that year, several years ago. But here we are now, 5 years after the application was filed, and we still don't have approval, some 1,800 some days. 5 years ago, the economy was certainly on an unsteady ground, enduring volatile markets that would lead to the Great Recession, and we're still facing stubbornly high unemployment, certainly in my state of Michigan. And worse yet, we now have a shrinking labor force with the smallest participation rate since the Carter administration. It is understandable why some Americans who want to work have given up hope. They see a government that spends their tax dollars on companies that fail while denying permission to build privately financed projects that create real jobs. Keystone XL can't solve all of our employment problems, but it could have helped many by now. And Keystone XL is hardly alone, whether it's private investments in energy development or plants facing new regs. Washington's red tape factory is making it harder to build things. This subcommittee has focused this year on our nation of builders. Yet it seems the federal regulatory maze is designed to prevent us from investing, constructing, and building the next big thing. President Obama's State Department estimates that the $7 billion private investment, shovel-ready Keystone XL infrastructure project will support over 42,000 jobs during the construction phase alone. And if the project had already been approved, companies with contracts could have hired additional workers instead of laying them off. Companies like Delta Valves in my district in Niles, who previously testified that they would double their workforce because of the Keystone pipeline. I would also note that the Keystone XL will be the safest pipeline in the nation, with 57 new safety controls specific to the project. Pipeline safety is of critical importance to all of us. And for me, particularly having endured a 2010 spill in the Kalamazoo River just outside of my district. Understanding the lessons from that accident, I joined forces with my fellow Michigan colleague John Dingell in helping getting landmark bipartisan safety legislation into law signed by President Obama last year to ensure that we have stricter controls and higher fines to protect the public on every new pipeline. And despite the added safety controls, exhaustive studies, some 15,000 pages of State Department analysis, thousands of jobs are still being held hostage to an ever-moving goal line. Our friend and ally Canada is pursuing other options, now considering building a pipeline to the eastern seaboard for refining and export. And I would note today that we already import some 1.5 million barrels of oil sands every day. And pipelines obviously have a less of a carbon footprint than we do by rail or by truck. So the Keystone Pipeline is certainly an important component of our architecture of abundance that is necessary to achieve energy self-sufficiency. In January of 2012, the President said he would do whatever it takes, his words, to create jobs. But here we are still today, 5 years later. It's time for the President to join the broad coalition of job creators, labor unions, Republicans, and Democrats alike and say yes to this jobs and energy project, and I yield the balance of my time to Mr. Kinzinger from Illinois.